Hi guys, today I would like to present these. These are Starblazer Comics, because I'm going to be covering the role-playing game of the same name. Now these came out from DC Thomson Publishing of Dundee in Scotland from 1979 up till 1991. Now my selection are mainly from the early run. I've got number 3 here up until about number 15, and then I've got a couple from 120 to 123 when I pick them up much later. So these are 1979, 1980, and then it's about 1984 with the other ones. Now, these are very small comic books in comparison. Here is an American size graphic novel or comic book. You can see that the Starblazers are very small. Now these are the same format as Commando comics over here in the UK, which were World War II action type comics which came out from the 1960s and possibly are still going. They were going fairly recently. And they're little comic books. Now Commando comics were amazingly popular. And I always kind of assumed that Starblazer was as well, because I loved them. It's science fiction. It's far more my thing than war comics. But in reading up for this video, I've discovered that these not only weren't available outside the UK really, even though they do have Australia and New Zealand prices on them, they were pretty rare over the border in England, and even didn't get good distribution throughout the whole of Scotland. So something I thought that every kid in the UK was growing up with, you know, going out to the newsagent and finding Starblazer Comics for 12 pence. You can spend your pocket money on it and pick up an actual science fiction story. No, it's part of my life and not a whole load of others. These are apparently fairly rare. Now, these are basically, each issue is a separate story. There are some continuing characters, and there are some limited series, but mainly every issue is a separate story across the whole 12-year run of the comic book. And some of these are heavily biased on media of the time. I'll point out a couple of things as we go through, but mainly they're really interesting science fiction stories. And for a kid of, well, I was 8 years old when the first of these came out, this was amazing. This was science fiction that I'd not really been aware of. I certainly wasn't going down the library and borrowing big compilations of science fiction short stories. But that's what these are. They're science fiction short stories, if I can avoid tripping over my tongue. So let's have a look through some of them. So the artwork's pretty good. In fact, some pretty famous artists and writers got their start on Starblazer Comics. The most famous I think of is Grant Morrison, who did a fantastic run on the Animal Man comic and created the character of John Constantine, who has gone on to be in Legends of Tomorrow and got his own film franchise and TV series, the film with Keanu Reeves. Grant Morrison got his first publishing work on some of these. Some amazing stuff. Now, this one, Alien Attack, it's a story about a starship monitoring a comet, and they notice it dropping spores as it passes by Earth. And the spores hatch out to be small alien symbiotes, and the Earth turns against them. Then alien spaceships arrive, because the symbiotes which are attaching to people and taking over the population of Earth are sending out a signal to the symbiotes which have conquered other planets. So an alien invasion starts. But they find a final member of the crew who'd created the starship, and he helps them out, and they find a way of getting rid of these symbiotes which travel on people's backs. They sort of go to the alien homeworld. There's some fantastic science fiction vehicles which I think look great. And they sabotage the large carrier, releasing its fuel and destroying all the creatures on board it. Edge of Infinity, where a starship traveling out to see where attacks on Earth vessels are, goes through a barrier to a negative zone, and all their equipment is useless. They manage to escape from the aliens there, befriending some of the other species that they've subjugated, but lure the aliens over into Earth territory where their negative weapons are equally useless as the Earth ones were around Earth. And they defeat them. But there's some fantastic little science fiction designs. Alien species, starships, so much I absolutely adored at the time, and so much great content. Then we've got the Ship Eater, which is about a patrol ship which is looking into the reason why a number of cargo transports have been destroyed. And it turns out that a large corporation, to destroy trash and do away with it, have genetically engineered this creature which can eat anything. And it's eating ships, the Ship Eater of the title. But one of the things I got into it, I loved the design of the creature, which any fans of kaiju movies might recognize as Gilala. Basically, it's a Korean version of Godzilla, really, from a kaiju movie from Korea. And the authors of the comic just totally ripped it off, used the design throughout. They obviously have to break into the corporation, find out what's going on, and then face down the Dram creature, attacking it with various starships until they defeat it. Now, the reason there's so many of these is that Starblazer was released 2 a month. So not only could you get one great story, you got 2. Planet of Fear, possibly my favourite of them. It's about 2 space miners. 8-year-old me drew a TIE fighter on it attacking. Never been an artist. But the 2 miners, they locate a great find, and then an alien competitor basically causes their fuel tanks to leak. They lose all their water, and they have to find some more. They get enslaved at one point. They try and capture an ice asteroid. They get chased across the planet by these giant bug things which eat metal and destroy everything. It's an adventure across an alien world against a business competitor. It's not any planets at risk or anything. We've got Lancer the Lawlord. Possibly one of my least favourite, but it's definitely an interesting style to it. He's a space policeman, and he gets sent to a medieval style world. He befriends a slave. He fights some what look like horseman type warriors. Takes part in a chariot race and saves the day. We've got Terra Satellite, where a large arc appears around Earth, conquering the world. A spaceship coming back from exploration is the only one to resist it, but they get captured as they enter the solar system and put on a transport ship to take trash out. They're like, it'll take you 20 years to take this trash to the edge of the solar system and dump it. That will be your punishment for standing up against our invasion. And they find out that basically it's all the members of Starfleet in it. So they end up having to recruit them, salvage old weapons, and fight the alien invaders in their rickety old starship, which they've armed up with lots and lots of guns. We've got Hellship, which is basically like the Doomsday Machine of Star Trek, a large machine which is going around gobbling up starships and planets. They send out some people to fight it, and once they get on board, they discover there's various species on board. It's like an ark ship, but there's also survivors of the various ships which have been captured and destroyed. They end up, of course, destroying it and saving the day. Algol the Terrible, about a Darth Vader alien lord type thing, a dark lord, and the people that fight him, named Hearn the Hunter, an almost mythical character. Some very nice artwork. I believe this is one of Grant Morrison's ones. I love the almost cyberpunk feeling to him climbing in covered with wet from the window. Some lovely artwork within it. Of course, the hero saves the day. A point I haven't mentioned is the back covers tend to be science fiction facts and photographs. You know, Telstar 1, the first satellite. America Ranger 4, designed to circle the moon taking photographs. Just little science fiction facts. And then the two which I've got from much later on, we've got Alien Invasion, which again is large alien spaceship arrives around Earth. Heroes have to fight it off. Not one of my favourites, but there's some interesting sort of tank designs in there. It's very imaginative science fiction. And finally, the last one I've got, which is only 1984-ish, so this went on for years, and I believe it actually took on a more role-playing tone as it went, almost a choose-your-own-adventure, but in a graphic format. But I'm afraid I never got any of those. Just didn't have the pocket money for it. This one, I can't even really remember. He disobeyed an order, so saved the Terran worlds from the Planet Eater. The one thing I do remember is that the designs here are, that's definitely a Viper out of Battlestar Galactica, if I can find another image of it. They've just taken the designs and ripped them off. So that's my little collection of Starblazer comics. And, as I mentioned at the beginning, they published a role-playing game based on this, which, given what I've now discovered about the rarity of these, I find somewhat surprising. But I'll cover that in another video. So, as usual, thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.